The thrill of the fight is often the thing that brings us to a new video game, and there are some upcoming ones that really look like they're going to excel at it. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on GameRanks, 15 upcoming action games with incredible combat. Starting off with number 15, it's the first Berserker, Khazan. This is a game that it seems like the developers have kind of tried to avoid calling it a Souls-like. They called it a hardcore action role-playing game, hack and slash, and a few other keywords, but it's very Souls-oriented. I don't think that they would deny that. In the game, you play as Khazan, a general of the Pelos Empire, a man that nearly died and comes back to seek vengeance. Supposedly, combat is the center stage of the game. It's a Souls-like, so that's kind of obvious. But this is one of those games where it really does look weighty. I don't know if it's the manga-inspired visuals that kind of emphasize that it's not moving super fast, because usually when you see that art style, you see a game that's lightning fast, very arcadey with combat, and that is just not the case. I mean, we've seen anime Souls-likes before, but this, I think, takes everything a step further. It looks put together a little better, and all of the footage that I've seen of boss fights and enemy encounters really harkens back to like older games with much weightier protagonists. I don't even know if it actually qualifies as a hack and slash, because it's not fast. When I think hack and slash, I think fast. Obviously, it has elements of hack and slash, but I mean, this looks pure Souls-like, and maybe even more smooth than Souls games generally are. Something about it just feels really extra buttery. Although I do have to say, I have seen trailers where the frame rate doesn't look great, and that's not exactly what I'm talking about here. This is about the combat. We'll see how this thing handles when it launches, but it looks really fun, and I'm definitely excited to give it a go. We don't have a release date for this one, and you'll find that there are quite a few on this list without them, but it's definitely one to keep your eye on. At number 14 is Killing Floor 3, obviously a follow-up to the other two Killing Floor games. I don't expect a lot out of this one in terms of story. Both of the previous games were pretty thin on that, but damn if these games don't have good combat in them. This is a series of what they call horror action games. I think it's appropriate. Obviously, Killing Floor games take a lot from boomer shooters, but they definitely handle themselves very well. Something I like about what they're doing with Killing Floor 3 is apparently they're moving a little bit back towards the types of guns you saw in the first one more than the second. The team says they're aiming to make guns that could exist in like 7 or 8 years from now, quote unquote grounded in reality. I don't know if I want to not take that with a grain of salt. I think the salt is at least a grain of it is good. But they're saying they're not sci-fi guns. And you got some kind of more absurd weaponry in Killing Floor 2, like the Reducto Ray, a literal shrink gun. Nothing against Killing Floor 2. I love Killing Floor 2. They're both very good games. I am happy that's the direction they're moving in, because Killing Floor 1 style weapons with much more expansive technology and better level design, that's where I'm all about what Killing Floor 3 could be. This is another one without release information. It could very well be 2025 before we see it even, but I suspect it's going to be a hell of a game. Moving on to number 13. So Crimson Desert is an RPG that looks like, in a lot of ways, it takes a lot of inspiration from The Witcher, except for one key, very important way. It looks like it, unlike The Witcher 3, aces the combat. Nothing against Witcher 3's combat. It's not incredible, but it's not the worst. Crimson Desert, on the other hand, looks like it is going to bring some incredible, flexible combat with a lot of interesting options. Obviously, you've got heavy sword play, and that looks really cool. But there's also some crazy stuff in it, like body slams. Multiple of this game's trailers have showed off body slamming, which is not something you just like expect from an action RPG, especially a big open world action RPG. Crimson Desert comes from Pearl Abyss, and its development cycle has taken it in a lot of different directions. It was an offshoot of Black Desert Online, but it turned into a single-player game in the same universe, and in all honesty, I'm really happy with everything I've seen of this game. It just looks cool as hell, and I can't wait to take on some of the crazy-looking enemies in this thing. I just hope that the combat lives up to what we've seen in these trailers, because if it does, this is going to be one of those games where you just feel it, you know? Moving on to number 12 is Kingmakers, which looks like a really different game. First off, in terms of amounts of soldiers, I guess, on screen, knights, very high. You're always going to notice that immediately because that seems to be where they start with their trailers. And then comes the time travel. Have you ever thought, what would it be like if I could jump into a massive medieval battle, except for I have modern weaponry? They all have swords, but I have pistols, rifles, rocket launchers, and modern vehicles. Because that's what this game is. There is just an absolutely massive amount of people on screen at any given time in any of the footage I've seen of this game. But then you see a helicopter come in, and it's just like launching missiles at people. It's absolutely crazy looking. It's one of those games where I am just immediately psyched upon seeing any combat footage, and it's hard for me to believe that if they deliver on what they're showing us in trailers, it won't be an amazing, like, groundbreaking game that has nothing else like it. And also, a bunch of people will copy. Kingmakers doesn't have a date, but we do know that it's coming this year. At least it's currently attempting to land this year. So when we know more, you can bet we're going to talk about it. And number 11 is Spine, a game that calls itself focused on close quarters gun combat. And to be frank, that's a great idea. Like, we've seen plenty of movies that feature what they call gun fu, The Matrix, John Wick in particular, but it's often kind of avoided as a way to do combat in a game because, for the most part, it requires a kind of fluidity that's well above what you might expect elsewhere. Like, you have to do Uncharted or Arkham Asylum at the same time as doing a third-person shooter, and we've seen the idea of Souls-likes with guns lately, but we haven't really seen somebody go the direction that this looks like it's going, and this looks incredibly fun. Like, I cannot express to you how excited I am to at least try this. If it is half as fun as it looks, it is easily going to be some of the best combat in any video game ever. I mean, obviously, that's a lot to live up to, so we'll see if they actually accomplish it. But man, if they do, this is a hell of a game to keep an eye on. We don't have release date information for this one either, but keep your eyes on it. This is going to be a hell of a game if it delivers. At number 10 is Enenra Demon Core, a wall-running, crazy parkour hack and slash where you chop people in half, body slam them, basically just do a bunch of impossible movement that looks fun as hell. Very arcadey, very old school hack and slash. And in no way am I complaining when I say any of that. This is the type of game that gets me hyped. I have absolutely no idea what this is about, but it, to me, looks like the real successor to the Ninja Gaiden series, which we don't have anything looming on the horizon for that I'm aware of. So yes, absolutely. Please give us Enenra Demon Core now. It's not gonna happen now. It's got a while. We don't even have like a year pinned down for this one, but it looks great. Just looks absolutely insane, and how can you not want it? How do you see this and not want it? That's what I want to know. Looks fantastic. At number 9 is Dragon Age The VeilGuard. I've been playing Dragon Age since the beginning, and it's a series that I don't think has ever really pinned down exactly what it is in terms of combat. It's sort of swung back and forth between action and real-time strategy, always getting a little bit closer to the center each time, but it seems like the momentum is more in the action direction this time around. Dragon Age The VeilGuard looks like it's really kind of going full-time action. Although it does have what they're calling a tactical pause and play combat wheel, and it does remind me a little bit of Dragon Age Origins, but also in some ways the weapon wheel in Mass Effect. I don't know if that's exactly how it's going to play out because obviously I haven't been able to play this game at all, but it gives me little tastes of things that I feel like I've tasted before. But what we have seen of the combat in some ways reminds me of the more arcadey type hack and slash, but in other ways reminds me of the more weighty hack and slash. Not necessarily full-blown Souls-like stuff. I don't want to compare this to Souls-like stuff if you're looking at combat footage from this game right now. Obviously, it's moving way too fast to be a Souls-like, but I like the way that magical powers seem integrated. I like the way that long-range weapons and melee combat seem integrated. It really does look like a fun experience, and honestly, Dragon Age is one of those games where I'm always really just hoping they get it right, because it's always been about 90% there. Whichever direction they've taken, it's never quite gone all the way. And this looks like they may have gone all the way with the combat, and I'm excited for that because all the other aspects of a Dragon Age game are usually very, very good. So we'll see if they stick the landing here. It looks to me like they have. We don't have an exact release date for this one, but we do know it's coming this year, or at least supposedly it is. So that's good. I'm excited to play it. Moving on to number 8, it is Judas, a new game from Ken Levine, the BioShock creator. This is a BioShock-looking game. You're up against a bunch of scary robots, and you get a bunch of powers to do it. It does look like the combat has been improved from previous BioShock games. As you know, Ken Levine has always attempted to move that forward. Ken Levine kind of described it as BioShock in space. It does seem a little bit as though the Rapture or the Columbia this time around is a little bit different. Things have gone bad, but also it doesn't come off as like a dead place like Rapture, while also not coming off like it's in the middle of a revolution like Columbia. There is an interview where he talked a lot about the game, and he talks about like revolutionary elements and protagonists and antagonists, and about how automation kept shifting roles in the society taking place on the space station. It's a really interesting interview. It's over on IGN with Jeff Knightley and Ryan McCaffrey. If you're interested in it, I would recommend it. Ken Levine is a fascinating human being, but the combat looks like BioShock and BioShock Infinite taken to the next level. Like, it looks like there's some more momentum. The powers look a little bit more impactful, which is just, it's cool because I like those games. I really like the combat in BioShock Infinite, and I think it really was given an unfair shake when it came out. I'm excited that this is where Ken Levine is going back to, because he tried to go in a completely different direction, and this is, I think, where he belongs. We do not have information in terms of release, but Take-Two has said they expect the game out by March 2025 at the latest. I would guess, knowing Ken Levine, that's not when it's going to come out, but yeah, it's going to be exciting. And number 7 is Doom Dark Ages, and I'm not sure if I need to tell you what kind of combat to expect from Doom Dark Ages. It's a follow-up to Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, so that's what to expect. However, it's set in medieval times. Like, it's a real big curveball, and the weapons reflect it. Like, there's some really insane-looking weapons in the trailers for this game. And obviously, you have that fast, kind of combo-laden, arcadey style, boomer shooter, but more style of the new Doom games. I don't really think there's a lot to say about this other than look at it. It's gonna be great. Like, how can you think this is gonna be anything but great? They would have to do some colossal screw-up in order for this not to work. So, I mean, what else is there to say about it? Like, this is gonna rule. We got a little bit of a wait, though, because it's coming in 2025. So keep your eyes peeled for more info on Doom the Dark Ages. And number 6, it's Avowed, which is Obsidian showing us that Bethesda can be done better than Bethesda. I'm willing to bet. It does take place in the Pillars of Eternity universe, but I mean, look at what we're looking at here. That's amped up Skyrim, is it not? Like, it's one of those things that just looks like really intense Skyrim, and I don't know how you could argue with that. I can't. I wouldn't. Why would I argue with that? I do think it's probably not going to just be amped up Skyrim, but that's what the combat keeps saying to me whenever I see a video of it, and I'm pretty excited for that. Skyrim is a lot of fun, but bringing its combat to the next level, that is absolutely what I would hope Obsidian would do when making some game that even vaguely harkens back to that. Avowed is allegedly coming out this year. That's exciting. So, second half of 2024, get ready. And number 5 is Phantom Blade Zero, which a lot of people thought was going to be a Souls-like, and then it just turned out to be a really fast-paced and badass-looking frickin' action RPG. Again, I don't know if I want to put it really close to Devil May Cry speed, but it's definitely in the faster paced area. And it does incorporate a little bit of Souls-like stuff from the look of some of it. It does kind of have that back and forth that makes you think of a Souls-like, but it's definitely not a Souls-like. And we're getting into an area where action RPGs are all pulling from each other in an interesting way. The fast ones are incorporating stuff from Souls-likes. The Souls-likes are sometimes a little bit more fast than you would expect them to be. So in a lot of ways, the line is getting blurrier, but Phantom Blade Zero has a pretty distinct look to it, and it's much more rooted in martial arts than you usually see any side of action RPGs get into. I'm excited for it. It's just a badass looking game. Like, look at it. There's games that when you see the trailer and it shows you how the combat works, you're just like, yes. And this is one of them. Allegedly, this one's coming sometime this year, but we don't have any information on it. So until then, it's just looking at how cool it looks, which is very cool. And number 4 is John Carpenter's Toxic Commando. One of those trailers that just gets you endlessly hyped. I don't normally think of Bon Jovi as like a hype song, but for some reason, with the action that they show in this trailer, it just like slams ridiculously hard. This is a game where there's just hordes of zombies. You've got big guns. Like, do the math. It just looks like it has a ton of momentum. It looks frenetic, but not like Doom frenetic. It just looks like a big, fast co-op shooter that looks incredibly fun. It's also just got a really good color palette, and that's something you can expect from something that has John Carpenter's name on it. Obviously, the man has a very specific look that is present in a lot of his films, and I feel like people who are looking back on it like magnify it times 10, and this is that. It's a really nice looking game with some really intense looking combat. I don't feel like there's another word for it besides hyped. It's incredibly hype. This is another one. We've got the year, supposedly this year. We'll see, but look out for John Carpenter's Toxic Commando. And number 3 is the Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster, which something that should have happened a long time ago, but I'm glad they're doing it. It is not just an HD remaster where they've upped the resolution. They're calling this a complete graphical overhaul, and that's great. I will say the price tag is a little bit steep. We're talking $50 for, granted, pretty big jump from the original in terms of graphics, but also you can tell very much that it is the old game. It looks different, but it also doesn't. It moves exactly like it used to. Like, the crazy, goofy animations on the old models seem to look as weird on the new ones. But Dead Rising is a game that's just fun as hell to mow down zombies in. Honestly, having it looking much better on the eyes while very obviously playing the same, it makes me excited to get a baseball bat, run into a shopping mall, and hit a bunch of zombies, and then finding a chainsaw in the mall, which is not where I'd expect to find a chainsaw, but it's there. Hell, I can beat people up with a teddy bear if I want to. It's over the top, completely absurd, and it's fun as hell. We do have a release date for this one. It's September 18th, and you know where I'm going to be on that day. And number 2 is Black Myth Wukong, a game that we have been talking about for quite a long time, it seems like. But this is a stunningly beautiful looking game where you play as a Monkey King. It's an adaptation of Journey to the West, which is an old Chinese novel. A lot of people who have actually been able to go hands-on with the game have said it is a lot like a Souls-like, but not quite. Like, there's no block or shield or anything like that, so that does separate it, in my opinion at least. You can deflect projectiles with your staff, but your main defense against an attack is a dodge as opposed to a block. I like that. It does have a little bit of that Bloodborne feel to it, but also everything I've seen of it does make it look a little more fast and fluid than a Souls-like. The developers don't consider it a Souls-like, but I do feel like it does owe something to Souls. Like I said, this is a time where all of the action RPGs are borrowing from each other, and I actually think that's a good thing, so I don't mind that these lines are getting kind of blurry. Black Myth Wukong is just a really impressive looking game. I really look forward to when I finally get my hands on it, because it's one of those games where I just have this feeling that playing it is going to be a pleasant surprise, even though I have pretty high expectations for it. This one has also got a release date, albeit for PS5 and Windows. We don't know when it's coming to Xbox. But on those platforms, Black Myth Wukong is coming August 20th, and I am really looking forward to it. And finally, at number 1, it's Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2, a third-person hack-and-slash shooter that is obviously taking on the mantle of the original game, which is kind of crazy that there hasn't been a sequel to this game. Like, the original game came out back in 2011. It is a fast-paced, I don't want to say Gears of War-like, because I don't think that it's appropriate to just say this is like Gears of War. It's similar in a lot of ways, but also pretty different in others. Gears of War tries to cultivate kind of a you versus impossible odds thing, where Warhammer 40k tries to cultivate a you are an unstoppable 7-foot badass thing. And it does it. It does it very well. And I don't know, I just have a hell of a fun time with the original. I'm excited for more. Obviously, it's going to look a million times better than a game that came out in 2011. I also look forward to whatever the multiplayer is going to be, because the multiplayer on the original was quite a bit of fun. I don't know, it's a quintessential 2011 game, and it doesn't look like they're going to be making it something different, which I'm very happy about. It looks like they're attempting to continue that, and that means it's going to be a game with great combat, period. This is also a game we have a release date for, which I'm quite happy about. It's coming to PS5, Xbox, and PC on September 9th. So mark your calendar. I do have one final bonus game for you, and it's Assassin's Creed Shadows, which really looks like it's trying to be the Assassin's Creed answer to Ghost of Tsushima, which is regarded as Assassin's Creed but good. Even though Assassin's Creed is good, Ghost of Tsushima is just such a monster of a game, and it feels like if you're the people who make Assassin's Creed, you have to kind of be like, oh, you know, if they're being regarded so much better than we are, we should take notes. And honestly, like, I'm not one to dogpile on Assassin's Creed. I think it's a great series. I enjoy both types of Assassin's Creed game, the more classic type and the more open world type. I do like the more classic type more, and I think that they've realized that there's some gameplay elements from that are just better, and they're kind of course correcting a little bit, but not entirely. This looks like a good game. They also responded to the outrage that it was always online, which was the right thing to do, because it shouldn't be always. No single player game should be that. I'm excited. That's landing November 15th for PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. And with that, you know of a whole bunch of games that the combat looks like it's going to be pretty damn good in. So let's fasten our seatbelts and hurry up and wait for it, all right? Some of them coming out closer than others. But either way, leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications. And as always, we thank you very much for watching this one. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter, Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on Game Ranks.